Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. We've got an NBA trade. That's right. It's playoff time. But Kemba Walker going to the Oklahoma City Thunder. We're going to break it down. But I guess before we do, welcome to the NBA Front Office YouTube channel. That's right. Setting up our own channel. This is a great opportunity to kick things off. So please make sure you do subscribe right here to the NBA Front Office YouTube channel. Don't forget to turn on notifications as well. As we head into the offseason, things are going to be very busy. We're going to be putting out some shorter daily videos breaking down the salary cap situation for a number of teams around the NBA. And of course, going over trades and transactions as well. Joining me as always is Keith Smith. Keith, how great is it that we get to kick off the channel with a trade involving your team, the Boston Celtics?
Yeah, never could have asked for anything more, right? This is absolutely wild. So I think we're very, very fortunate here. For those wondering, still doing the podcast style. You'll get the the long form podcast when we really dive deep into topics and the like. We're adding these on as quick hits and a way for Trevor and I to come together if we need to. 2 or 3 times a day. We could do this if we want to, if the news requires it. So we're really, really excited. Thank you guys for joining us on this journey. And yeah, like you said, we got a big one to break down.
Yeah, we've got a big one. We've got Kemba Walker and the 16th pick in the draft, which isn't a terrible pick, plus a second rounder going to the Thunder in exchange for former Celtic and future Celtic Al Horford, Moses Brown, and another second rounder. Keith, your initial reaction, were you surprised by this move, the fact that the Celtics were getting rid of Kemba Walker?
Yeah, well, let me give you a sense of how the day's gone here in the Smith house. I got up, I told my wife, hey, not much happening today in my world. I'm gonna get caught up on a lot of things, get a lot of stuff done. I turned on the shower. I went to go grab something out of the laundry room, and the news broke while I was going to the laundry room. Over an hour later, my wife said, "Why is the shower running in our bathroom?" So that gives you a sense of my level of surprise. Yes. Not surprised Kemba Walker got traded. Not overly surprised it was for Al Horford. We've heard versions of that mentioned, a million times. People, assume OKC's, they're still in the asset collection mode, and why not? And the match is there, and these guys could work on both teams, and in that. But for it to still happen, that part's surprising. When you take out the second round picks, because it's essentially a swap. Boston sending a 2025 second to OKC. OKC sending a 2023 second to Boston. That I don't even know why those are in there, to be quite honest with you. It really comes down to, I break it almost into 2 smaller trades. It's almost like the Celtics swapped number 16 for Moses Brown, and then Kemba Walker for Al Horford, and it saves the Celtics a ton of money. It's probably, I don't know, that's a better fit positionally. We can get into that. We'll see how that looks. But yeah, and then from the OKC side, that's the easier side to understand here, right? You take on Kemba Walker, you gain yet another additional first round pick, and to be clear, that is. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because they need those, right? That is this year. So they now have 3 picks in the first round. Their pick going into the lottery is number 4. So we'll see what happens with that. If Houston's pick slides out, that could end up a pick that they get 2. But right now they've got 16 and 18. That's where they're at. So 4, 16, and 18 pre-lottery. So we'll see ultimately where they land out. And then they're going to take on Walker. They're going to eat, good chunk of money over the next couple of seasons for him, try to rehab him, and then see, can you flip him again later down the line for yet another first round pick. So yeah, very, very interesting to see how this one ultimately comes together, because on the OKC side, I think it's pretty simple. It's, we'll eat the contract to take on an extra pick. Moses Brown had to be in the trade because they needed to send something for salary matching. So that's why he ultimately was put in this trade.
I think it's interesting from OKC. Well, I mean, it's fairly standard for them, right? This is going to be Chris Paul version 2.0 with Kemba Walker. They're hoping to absorb what was seen as maybe a contract that the Celtics didn't want, or clearly they didn't want based on the way this trade looks. And they're going to try to rehab his value a little bit and then flip him for something else down the road, just like they did with Chris Paul, where they took on his salary. A lot of people were saying that salary is untradeable. They kind of rehabbed his value. Chris Paul obviously did a lot to rehab his own value and then eventually moved him from there. So I've got people asking me right now, oh, is Kemba Walker going to get bought out? Are they going to waive him? I don't think that's the way OKC is going to go. They're in asset allocation mode, which means if they have an opportunity down the road to move him for a profit, they certainly will do, and they're going to pick up even more picks for that. This team is loaded with draft picks. They can't keep them all, but you know what? It's a good problem to have. They've got plenty of flexibility moving forward. But the more interesting side of this, maybe, Keith.
Sorry, one thing on that Kemba buyout thing is, right, and I mean, people know who follow us. I came on here and said a million times, Blake Griffin's not going to get bought out because of the money owed. Well, what happened? Blake Griffin got bought out. That said, slightly different scenarios there, right? That there was, a quicker decision for the Pistons to make, and that I think that was one where there was clearly no trade market. If Kemba Walker is going to get bought out, it'll be next year, is my guess. They'll see what they can do to get him rebuilt, or maybe they can turn him around and trade him again this offseason. There's no shortage of questionable deals out there where teams may prefer to have Kemba, there, because if Kemba's healthy, Kemba's still, for the most part, he's not going to score quite as much. He doesn't shoot it quite as well, but he's still good player when he's healthy. That's, I think, the biggest question. But yeah, let's move over to the Boston side, because I think that's where there's a lot more going on.
So explain this from the Celtics side, Keith, because I have a lot of people that are scratching their heads right now saying, isn't Kemba Walker a better player than Al Horford right now? So is this a fit situation, or is this just a financial motivation? What is the Celtics' perspective on this? Why make the move? Or does Brad Stevens just really, really not like Kemba Walker, to where his first order of business was get this guy off my team?
Yeah, I don't think that's the case at all. So let's put that one to rest, and let's be very clear too. This trade is done. But this has already been agreed to. It's already finalized. Teams have already announced it and everything. Once a team announces a deal, it's done, right? That's the telltale sign that something is finished. So this deal's already done. For Boston, what this does is this frees up significant flexibility for them, cap and tax wise, over the next 2 seasons. So this year alone, right? This coming season, the 2021-22 season, Al Horford's going to be on the books for $27 million. Well, compare that to Kemba Walker, would have been on the books for $36 million. So there's about $9 million. Now they did take on Moses Brown, so we can add him in there, but they gave up the draft pick. It nets out to about $9.4 million in additional salary that the Celtics freed up, or not salary, I shouldn't have said it that way, flexibility, because they're still way over the cap. They're not going to have cap space in this summer, but they were right at the luxury tax. Now, I project them as I go through and do everything and finalize and do the trade. They're about $7.9 million under the luxury tax, about $8 million or so there. So that is huge, because what that's going to do for the Celtics is that will allow them to, if they want to re-sign Evan Fournier, they can do it and not go insanely deep into the tax. Because if they were right at it and Fournier got, let's just call it $17 million, what he was basically at this past year, they would have been $17 million into the tax. I think their top out range is probably somewhere around the $10 to $12 million range. So now you can re-sign Fournier for $17 million and be about $8 million over. And that's enough room there where if you made another move or two, you could really lessen that and get that bill down significantly. Now, 2022-23, that's where the savings will really amp up. Horford, his contract's a little complex, but not really all that hard. He's on the books for $26.5 million, but only $14.5 million of that is guaranteed. So you could save $12 million if you waived him today, tomorrow, before the start of that season. That becomes fully guaranteed if the team he is on, and I've seen confusion about this because some places it's still written as if the Philadelphia 76ers make the finals, because that's the team he signed with, but it's all transferable. So it's now to Boston. If the Celtics make the finals in 2022, that jumps up to $19.5 million guaranteed for 22-23. If the Celtics win the finals in 2022. So next season, that becomes fully guaranteed. And at that point, you're happy to pay it, right? You're great. We won the championship. We're thrilled to pay that. You're even if you think Horford's going to be done, you're happy to pay it because that's you got your banner, you got your rings. So at worst, he's on the books for 26.5 million. Well, let's compare that back to Kemba Walker, who's got a player option that pretty certain he's going to pick up because it's for $37.65 million. So you're sitting there, that's a savings of $11 million. Now, if you wanted to move on from Horford, because I'm being realistic, I don't think they're going to win the finals, probably not even make the finals next year. But if they don't, you could move on. And now all of a sudden, if you're the Celtics with a handful of other moves, you can get in range of going after a max free agent in the summer of 2022. And that free agent class in 2022 is loaded, depending, player options and extensions and those kind of things. So between 22 and 23 now, you're basically completely clean because you don't even have cap holds or anything. That's a little far out because we don't know what they'll do as far as re-signing Marcus Smart and Evan Fournier and other moves. But Boston now has flexibility that they did not have last night. They didn't have the same kind of flexibility, so they're in position to do things that they weren't able to do. A day ago.
I think it's interesting because when we talk about like the offseason of 2021, this offseason was supposed to just be this monstrous offseason, right? It was going to be Giannis, it was going to be Paul George. I mean, Kawhi could still be a free agent. Anthony Davis, LeBron, right? All these guys were going to be free agents. Teams were just saving up all their cap space, and now we're here, and it's there's not really anybody out there. It's
John Collins, Lonzo Ball, and a bunch of restricted guys and DeMar
DeRozan. And that's about it now. So you never know. So even when we say, hey, 2022 looks really good, you never know exactly what it's going to look like until you actually get there in terms of, players can extend and things like that happen. But still, the bottom line, I like this in the sense that if you're the Celtics, you're looking at your roster and you say, okay, with Kemba Walker, can we win a championship right now as this team is currently constructed? And I think the answer is probably no, right? You're probably not good enough. You probably need another piece that you're going to add in. And so if the goal is to win a championship, then of course you definitely make this move. You might say, okay, well, you gave up a talented player in Kemba Walker. Yeah, but down the road, you've given yourself some flexibility to really hit the home run move that brings it all together and vaults you up to being, if not the power, a power in the Eastern Conference. Gives you a chance to really capitalize on the prime of guys like Jason Tatum, like Jaylen Brown, right? You're able to really make this move to propel yourself to the next level. Now, again, making that move isn't easy, but the Celtics have put themselves in better position to do that. And so that's why, as much as I like it for the OKC side, hey, they're getting more draft picks. I think the Celtics are making a smart move here that could eventually really pay off.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. No, let's take it on the court, right? Because it's very easy, I think, now to understand. This was primarily financially motivated, cap, tax related. This is not as much about, basketball as maybe we like our trades to be. But NBA trades are rarely about just basketball. Most of the time, they're about something financial for one team or the other. But in this case, as you look at it for Boston, there was a sense that with Kemba Walker playing a major role, you might be somewhat limited anyway. He's a player other teams can target as you get deep into the playoffs. He's, he tries very hard defensively. He'll take charges. He'll do all these things, but he's just not a great defender. Offensively, we've seen him at times struggle to get his shot off and things like that. So I think what you're doing with Horford is you're in a way you're adding now to your pile of big men, because now you've got Al Horford, Robert Williams, Grant Williams, Tristan Thompson still under contract, and Moses Brown, who I want to get to in a second. You're adding Horford in, but you know what Horford can do with these guys. He's a very willing passer. He's somebody you can run offense through at the top of the key. They also, after they traded Daniel Tice, they had no stretch element out of their big men left last year, and the offense wasn't the same without it. And Horford gives you that. He was still at 37% 3-point shooter last year. When he played, he played pretty well. He's not the defender he once was. He's pretty much, you got to play him at the 5 now. You can't, move him over to the 4, which was always a big part of his allure, was he could play both the 4 and the 5. But I think on court, this has a potential, pending what Boston does to shore up the point guard position. They have a chance to be much better now, because point guard, we'll see what they do, right? It's right now it's Marcus Smart, Peyton Pritchard, and that's kind of it. So I would expect that's where the next move will come, and I expect that move to come out of the big men, because I don't think we're going to see Tristan Thompson stick around much longer, because I think just an expiring contract, nine plus million, that's a movable deal. And there are teams that still like Tristan Thompson, for what he can do as a defender and a rebounder and those kind of things. So I think there's a chance we see him moved on from. And I think Brad Stevens is starting to make this over. Now, I want to talk about the draft pick part of it real quick, because there are a lot of people who are like, we had to trade the number 16 pick to dump Kemba Walker. Well, here's your challenge is, you don't need another young player on this team. They drafted 4 players in the first round, each of the last, or total in the last 2 drafts, 2 guys in each of the last 2 drafts. And you still have Robert Williams. That's 5 players still on their rookie scale deals. Adding another guy is just another guy who's probably not going to play all that much, and then how are you going to develop them? How are you going to get there? What are you going to do? And I think Moses Brown, he's still young enough, and he signed to a minimum deal for the next 3 seasons with a team option on the end of it. He's a guy who could deliver to you just as much as you're going to get out of the 16th pick. He hung 21 points and 23 rebounds on the Celtics earlier this season. So that is something where, yeah, exactly. Right. That's one of those where, yeah. I always refer to that as the Bill Belichick. If we can't stop him, we're going to go get him and put him on our team. That's what he did with Wes Welker back in the day and a handful of other guys. So that's your thing with this trade from the Celtics is I think there's a really good opportunity here, pending what else they do. Not right now, not today, because they've got other moves to make, but they make other moves. I think they're better on court, and they're certainly better on the salary
if you're
sheet.
looking at this as simply a salary dump, and this is what we had to pay to get rid of Kemba Walker, you're probably missing a good part of this trade, because again, Al Horford, I know a lot of people have written him off. He's washed, right? And we haven't seen him in a while because OKC sat him, right, for the end of the season there. So this is not the case, though. He can still produce on the floor. Right now, you can argue maybe Kemba can provide more, but in the right system, I think Horford can still be really good. And then Moses Brown, those guys matter. They're going to provide you with some production out there on the court in addition to the savings that you've got. So yes, the 16th pick, that's a steep price to pay, but you're not getting nothing on the court in return. It's not a straight salary dump, and I think that is really important to note. Keith, final analysis, final wrap it up. Is there one team that you like this for better than the other? I know time always tells with trades like this which team actually wins, but just on the surface, is there a team that you think made out a little better between OKC and Boston here?
Yeah, initially, I think Boston, just the flexibility this gave them, because there was no way, I've been saying this, writing this for a while, there was no way you were going to see Evan Fournier and Kemba Walker and Marcus Smart all back on this team next year. Now, some people may say, well, good, none of them should be back, and that's going, a bridge or two too far. But I think this gives them that flexibility, and I think what the idea is now is stay a good competitive team for the next couple of seasons, and then be in a position to pitch those major free agents, whether it be in 2022 or 2023. Hey, come here and join up with Tatum and Brown. Let's say Horford does retain some value, but by the time his contract runs out, you're looking at this is probably a guy who's best for 20 to 25 minutes a game. Well, because you've got him in the fold, you can always now go back to him and say, hey, what do you think about coming back and doing that for us for, $10 million a year or something like that? And that's a good way to do it. He, for what it's worth, seems extremely excited. He's already posted on social media. He's not a big social media guy, but he got on there this morning and posted, how excited he is to be back. His family's very excited. So I think this is a good thing for the Celtics in a big, big way. I by no means think it's bad for OKC, because let's see what happens. This will be one where the full story of this trade is not going to be told for another couple years, and then we'll know. But yeah, I think Boston did really, really well here.
Both teams have moves to make out of this, right? We have to see what the 16th pick becomes. We have to see what they're able to eventually flip Kemba Walker for in OKC. We need to see what the Boston Celtics do with this extra flexibility that they've now freed up. What can Al Horford be? What can Moses Brown be? What does the team look like next season and beyond? Those things are going to matter, and I think that's what's ultimately going to determine who wins or loses this trade. I see the motivation for both teams to play it the way that they did here, and I think that it makes a lot of sense in terms of the strategy moving forward for both sides. All right, everybody. Let us know your thoughts on this deal in the comments down below, and don't forget, subscribe to this new YouTube channel, the NBA Front Office Show. We're going to be breaking down all the moves around the NBA right here. So again, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to turn on notifications as well. Till next time, see ya and stay safe.